Welcome everyone to Late Night Restaurant Show. I'm trying to make sure I don't mess up because my little buddy gets so mad if I said that. Dominic isn't here tonight, but we've got a great show lined up. You know what? I am missing my sapsucker. Anyways, we've got a lot of great things to talk about today. We've got a great guest. You know what? It's been a blast through the summer. I just finished an outdoor festival recently, and I'm still recovering from that. But we've got a great show. Dom's out in Toronto, so I'm not going to say he's doing some things with goats, but not good things like shaving goats. But we've got a great guest. I'm going to miss him. We'll have a show later on this week, I think, with him, but he's a busy guy. So anyways, great show lined up. Great guest lined up. I am fascinated. He's already an industry rock star. Tons of experience. Like innovators, so hold back. Innovators, entrepreneurs. I think this is going to be a show for you. So sit back, enjoy this one, and let's get started. Here we go. Hey, Aaron, welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
You know what's funny is it's weird doing intros when you don't have your sidekick.
Throws it all off.
It's usually a little banter, and I'm really crappy at having banter by myself. But you know what's interesting as well is I've done so many shows over the years that it gets weird when you do it by yourself. And I did tons. I did thousands of shows by myself, but when you have your sidekick, you kind of need him. So, anyways, we need Dominic. But, anyways, thanks, Aaron, for joining us.
I'll pretend I'm Dominic, but, different hair and all that, so.
Yeah. It's so funny. I go to events, and they're like, where's Dominic? I'm like, really? Like, I'm not joking. This Friday I was at an event we were at. He wasn't there, and people are asking about where he is. I'm like, out of the blue. Yeah, he's like a little celebrity.
Yeah, I mean, hey, at least now you know he's cared about. So
yeah, exactly. Well, first of all, thank you again to everyone that's going to be joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all those channels out there. Please send in questions and stuff. But thanks again for joining us.
No problem. My pleasure to be here.
And as we always say, Dominic and myself would be, okay, tell us about yourself. And as you know, this is not a podcast. I don't make it like boring stuff. Tell us, give us some insight. Who you are, what you do, all the great stuff you do.
Oh, what a dangerous question. Okay, so I've got the privilege of being in hospitality for almost my entire life. My dad, at a very young age, would take me to, he handled catering for events where it was like 50,000 people. And they would feed them all within an hour.
50,000?
50,000 people, yes. So I learned that streamline operations. I learned how to make food. I learned how important refrigeration is. When I was literally 5-6 years old, I remember getting stuck inside a refrigeration unit, which was scary. But, yeah, I got stuck inside a refrigeration unit. Fortunately for me, it was holding tons of pudding cups, so I was perfectly fine. But in doing so, being around that type of operation, I was able to learn from him a lot. And then beyond that, I've always kind of been that entrepreneur style, hey, what can we do to not just make a dollar, but what can we come up with to make something better? And going through school, I very much was into computers and the tech side of things. And ultimately, I ended up getting a degree in computer science, but I also got a degree in marketing. So, I mean, hey, if you're going to get one, you might as well get the other, because just in case there was a .com bubble, I needed something to have for backup.
I love that, man. I love that.
Yeah. So I did that all by the time I was 16 years old.
16?
Yeah. So
a
little young.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So when in one of the stories I'll tell people when it comes to kind of the computer entrepreneur style, but just how my brain thought. When I was probably 7 years old, I would go to swap meets or flea markets, depending on what part of the world you're in. And those little white poppers that kids would throw on the ground, I would go and find whoever was selling them early in the morning and go and buy every single one they would have and make some deal to buy, if you're going to sell them for 75 cents a box, how much to buy the entire case or everything you have. So in turn, I would end up buying every single popper and then sell them the rest of the day for whatever price I wanted to charge, because I was the only one that could sell them. So that's what started this maniacal monster of, business and looking at capitalism and market share and all that kind of thing.
Aaron,
so that's the basics.
Were they called poppers?
Yeah.
I think they were
they were either poppers or snappers, just depending on what brand you got them from.
Yeah.
So
I remember those, dude.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago.
Yep. So
not that long. Let's not age yourselves.
Yeah. I mean, hey, they're still fun. If I see a box of them, I'll still turn around and buy a box or the case. And then I sell them to my niece and nephew. So I'm just joking. I don't actually do that. So that kind of got me into that entrepreneur world of, business. And then while I still did computer tech stuff, I also went and worked for Olive Garden for a short period of time. And so I actually got to see the actual operations of a restaurant versus seeing the catering side of a large event. And honestly, I loved those years. I have a lot of respect for Darden and just their training program. But I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy bringing food out to the kids and even the adults for that matter. I mean, you bring them endless supply of breadsticks and Alfredo sauce and you can make anybody happy. So, I mean, but it's all about hospitality. So I did that. I've worked in the amusement park and theme park world for quite a long time on the tech side of things. So I got very familiar with things like the Calgary Stampede up where you're at, but most of the amusement parks and fairgrounds and different attractions I was able to work with as well.
So, okay, like that's a journey. And then how old were you? Like when you first started all this? So you were 16.
Well, 16 is when I graduated high school and college at the same time. When I would go around to the swap meets and buy the toys and sell them, that was like, I would say 6-7 years old.
That's wild, dude.
So, and then I had my first like official company by the time I was 13. Sold that company. And so, as you can see, it's kind of been my entire life has been in that space.
And how like, what keeps it going?
The innovation, the idea that you can make something, or you can plus it, as Walt Disney always would say. So, the mind kind of stops, which is dangerous.
What do you mean by that? Like plus it? I like
Well, so yeah, you walk into a restaurant, and most people are going and looking at the menu, going, "What do I want to eat?" I'm looking at the menu, going, "How would I redesign this to make this better? How would I change the layout of the restaurant to make it easier for guests to
You do that too?
order?"
You do that too?
Yeah, yeah, and it's a bad disease.
Oh,
I think they should call it like a hospitality disease disorder or something like that.
I have that disease. I go into restaurants all the time, and I'm like, what if we did this? What if we did that? What if we do this? I did something the other day, and it was to help them out. I forget what it was, but it was something that I was actually there. I was like, what if we do this just to help them out? What was it? And it's horrible because I'm constantly looking for innovative ways to either better them or make more money for them. Really, at the end of it, it's making more money for them.
Yeah. Well, and the problem is, see, you were at least walking into a client you were already working with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, I do it to the people that I don't actually work with.
Well, I do that both.
So that's the dangerous part.
I do that both. I do that with locations that I do know and I do work with, but I'm doing that also when I'm not working with them. I'm constantly looking at how can they better. I'm actually doing a charity burger in Calgary next month. In a couple of weeks it launches. I'm excited because I want everyone to go try it out. And I tell you, I hope they sell so many milkshakes using this idea and this burger. There's money that goes to charity for it, but it was just the whole thing. I just have this addiction of trying to help people make more money in this industry.
Yeah,
because it's tough. It's tough.
It's tough, but when you do get that accomplishment where you go, "Hey, you guys had a successful weekend. You had, top-notch sales. Well done." You get that boost of accomplishment so much faster where you go, "Wow, I did this. I helped. I was able to play a part in that."
Yeah, it is. And, I think sometimes I hope sometimes restaurateurs get the opportunity to do a lot of these changes or these suggestions. A lot of them just can't, and it's difficult for them, and it's difficult to, like, a lot of people. My favorite is how many people tell restaurateurs on how to run their business. And I get it. And I want to make sure that they're doing it for the purpose of doing it, not to necessarily profit from it. Like, nothing, you know what I'm saying? Like, I understand we have to make money and people have to, make money off of it. But I want to make sure they're doing it for the right purpose and they have their heart in the right place. I've met a lot of people that don't have their heart in the right place on trying to help restaurants. And they end up just trying to, and you can kind of tell, I've worked with so many of them, and, they're constantly, or they drop you like a rock because you're not interested in doing something with them because their heart wasn't there. And all of a sudden they stop calling or they stop emailing or texting. It is. I get it, business world, but I also know the business world quite well. And I think if you do things for the right reason, as they always say, you will be rewarded. And it maybe isn't about money. Maybe it's a different reward. But yeah, it's a tough one.
It's the difference between hospitality and sales.
Yeah.
So, in sales, you're nice at first until the person says, "Yeah, I'm not really going to buy." And then you're like, "I could care less about going back to this place. Yeah, see you later. Your food was terrible anyways."
Exactly.
But then the hospitality side is the guy who's sitting there going, "Hey, this table rocks a little bit. Let me get a bunch of napkins and stack them all up just to make a better experience for the next person that sits at this table."
Yeah.
He's not making any money off that. He's doing it just to be nice.
I think more and more people need that. They need to, like, I think Anthony Bourdain, I got to work with Anthony. I got to meet. I didn't get to work. We were planning on working with his director for his shows that he did, and the editor and the guy that really put the whole show together. Anyways, he said what you saw with Anthony Bourdain is what you saw, is what he was, right? There was no fake. There was nothing this and that with it. And I think when you look at that from the sales side, and when you get to work with people that have the heart in the right place, you can tell. You really can. And I think when you look at And I understand. I really do. I get that side. I think at a time when you do things like we do in promoting people or promoting people like yourself that are doing things for the right reason or like doing good to help the industry move forward, innovate or try new ideas. I think it's perfect. Like it's very exciting. Yeah, there's my two thoughts on it.
No, but your two thoughts are right. I mean, the idea that, and I think a lot of people within the hospitality industry have gotten in the last few years so wrapped up in what new job am I getting, what new thing, career path am I getting? I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that. Forgetting that you work in one of the coolest industries out there. You're not digging a ditch. You're not doing something that is so mundane. You literally get to walk in and play a part in to putting a smile physically on someone's face when they're getting their kids meal, when they're getting their happy face pancakes, or when they're, cutting into that amazing steak, whatever it may be. Yeah. So, but so many times it gets forgotten that we get to play in that space every single day.
Yeah, and it is an exciting space, and I'll tell you, you never know what's going to happen in that space either.
That is very true.
It's very crazy.
Well, and then and like you said, there is the business side of everything. So, as much as we say it's hospitality, and it is, if you don't charge anyone anything and you always give away all your food, and you only have guests that come in once a year, eventually your restaurant probably isn't going to survive, no matter how great you think the hospitality is.
Yeah.
Your landlord still says you have to pay the rent. So that becomes the trickier part in how do you market the restaurant? How do you generate a menu that is innovative and keeps people coming back?
Yeah. I think that's the thing, is that innovation is hard. And here's the thing too, and it made me think about this, Aaron, is that, and I say this easily because that's one thing, and I think you're the similar way, is innovation or new ideas for me, I can't stop them. A lot of people are on the other side of our industry. Their ideas are hard. They have a hard time innovating, especially in their menus or dishes. And I know they can get influenced by social or shows and things like this from cooking. Trust me, I've done enough of those in the past. But they have a hard time. So for us, it's like, oh yeah, innovation or ideas, or we can create this and that. There's a lot of people just struggle with that. I find it fascinating because I don't understand that. I don't understand a world without innovation or being creative or innovative. I have it on my arm. So it says that tattooed on my arm, but I don't know a world not like that, or I don't know how not to be like that. And I find it fascinating when I find people or I meet people that are just not innovative or have a creative mind. I don't know what that's like. Some days it's awesome, and some days it's once in a while you're just like, what do people do?
It's that confusing. Like how do you not get it? How are you not looking at this and going, well, if you do this milkshake and you add these 3 things on top of it, and then you add 2 more cherries, you can, and then you realize that world kind of lives in our own brains. Not everyone lives inside our, theme park world mind.
You're right though. And I think that's where we look at, how do we help people? And I always say we could do a class on how to be innovative or creative. Like, where do you get your ideas from? Aaron, where do you get yours from? Where do you sit around? Because you have to have that creative time where you sit there. Do you stare at stuff, watch TV, look at social? Like, where's that creative idea time for you?
I've learned that I love watching people, not in a creepy way, but generally outside most people's houses, next to the window when they're not looking. Yeah, no. But going to places like a theme park, going to Disneyland and sitting on a bench and just watching how people interact and what they do and why, a kid likes this versus liking that. And even if it's watching a TV commercial, going, why did they do that? Why did they put this person in this scene? And why did they light it this way? Why, so you're constantly analyzing almost everything. But by doing that, you're also going, oh, I would try this different. I would do this. And part of it is just not being afraid to make a mistake, but not being afraid to try something different. I mean, especially if it comes a menu, you can make anything on a menu. You have ingredients, you can try whatever you want.
What's interesting is that I think we need to. Do you think a lot of restaurateurs fear making mistakes, so they don't tap into that side of the brain?
Yeah, because if you make the mistake, your restaurant's gone.
Yeah, true. I guess so.
You press the wrong red button, and all of a sudden you don't have a restaurant.
I know. Well, it's true, and that's what's scary about it is that a lot of independent operators don't have the freedom or the ability to play. And when I was in university, I'll never forget this. There's a few things in university I remember, but it wasn't. My one professor said, and I've said this a million times, I think I even have it somewhere. I should get a tattoo of it. Every piece of art, it's actually in my slides. When I do keynotes, it's at the very end of the slide. I put this big slide up, and it says, every piece of art that is hung in any gallery in the world was not painted with the intent of making it a masterpiece. They made it by playing and having fun and experimenting. Jackson Pollock, Barnett Newman, all these famous people did not accidentally or intend to make a painting worth $30 million. Or Picasso. Picasso is one of the biggest guys that played that he'd go to the garbage dumps and pull out stuff out of the garbage dump. Or he would throw paint around and just play. And that's what made his work so great. There's a playful aspect of it. Now, there's theory and ideology behind every piece of work, but the playing part, and I think in the restaurant world, we don't get that. And I was like I said, we're doing this burger down in Calgary for charity, and we got to play in the kitchen. And the chef lit up, and I was working with the chef, and we're fist bumping and we're having a blast. And he's like, oh, what about this? And then the owner's running out and he's like, what about this sauce, Jay? And I'm like, yes. And it was like all these cool things. We're putting it all together and playing. I don't think we allow ourselves enough to do that. And I think we need to do more of that. And those mistakes typically become gems.
Well, and the thing is, in the world of that food inventing, so many times a chef's an artist, no matter what. I don't care if it's a chef working at McDonald's or if it's a line person working at McDonald's or if it's the chef in the 5-star restaurant. They're both artists in their own right. But if you take that person and go, hey, how would you make this if you were going to make it for lunch? Yeah. And let them try these different ingredients and utilize different things, you'll come out, like you say, with some of these gems where you're like, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah. And that's why I would say to anyone working at a restaurant, or even if it's front of house staff or back of house staff, and if it's your owners, the cooks, whatever, devote 10% of your time just going, hey, what new thing could we try? Even if it ends up tasting terrible, just put some time into that schedule to where everyone feels like they're involved and we're going to try something new. And some of the most amazing things will come out of that.
And I think we need to encourage people to do that. Is go break stuff, go play with it. Maybe there's a part in the week that you have experimental Tuesdays or Wednesdays, or from 2 to 3. I know, or 1 to 3 or whatever. After your rush on a Tuesday, because it's probably dead, shouldn't be, but it probably is. That's a day that you play around with stuff and you create stuff. I want to work, and like you said, chefs are artists, and I think they want to work in places that allow for that or encourage people to do that. And I think that's important. I think we need to do more of that, because when they're working, that's not when the ideas are made. When they're busy on a Friday or Saturday, Thursdays, and everything's hectic, no one's creating. They're just executing. And I think we need more innovation and stuff like that. So, but we need more people like you.
Well, I mean, I'm just one person, but there's how many tens of thousands of people that work in these restaurants and hotels and theme parks and resorts and all these different places where they get to engage with guests or they get to play a part in making a guest experience that, they have ideas. It's funny. I'll go into my favorite taco restaurant or Mexican taco shop and I'll ask the cook, okay, when you go home, what are you making? Yeah. Oh, I'd make this, this, and this. Okay, so the execution is what he's making at the restaurant, making the same tacos and burritos. But he goes home, he puts a half taco in a burrito and some other things. And that's the better dish. Okay. So, you end up learning all these little secrets because all those cooks are making food. They're not always just making what they see on the menu.
Yeah. And I think we just need to encourage it. I think we need to encourage more. So, where I used to get my ideas when I have an art degree and I went to a university for painting, and a major in painting, minor in art history. And I went there, and one of the things I used to do is usually on a Sunday I love libraries. I used to love libraries. Some people know what a library is today, but I used to love libraries. And it was kind of like a great place. It's probably a safe place for me as well. But when I was a kid, just like restaurants, restaurants was my safe haven. So that's why I dedicate my life to supporting and promoting them. But it was that ability to go into a library. I used to grab all the American art, I think it was called, in magazines, and I would grab them and I would sit there and just go, or design magazines. And you can probably see that within like the stuff that I design for our shows and what we do on our network. But I would go through those design books and I'd be like looking at what kind of furniture is coming up or what colors are being in new magazines or old magazines. And then, if you want to be influenced from the 70s, I'd go to the 70s magazines and I would go through them and I would sit there for hours. I would just get a stack. Poor ladies. Put it back. But I would just get a stack and I would just go through and let it soak in. Like not even make notes or like those days we have cameras like we have now, but just let it absorb in. And I used to do that every week. I did. And then I'd go and I would work on pieces of my work, became very influenced by that. And I just think we need to teach people how to do that more. It's like the session I did back in May, we taught people how to smile. Because people are forgetting how to smile, and it's not their fault. We just forget sometimes. We have to get people to tell them you got to smile.
You don't get the opportunities to smile, so then you're like,
no, but same kind of thing, right? Like you don't have the time. Like you're right, though. We have a lot of great things going on usually, and we tend to navigate to the negative. And then we think people are a little weird when they're happy and having a great time. What's going on there?
Isn't it funny how the world's changed where, you're happy? There's something wrong with you.
Exactly. No, but that's true. Right? So what's going on with them? They're happy.
Don't talk to them. They're too happy.
It's odd what's going on. But yeah, I did 100 and some people in the room, 170 people I think we had in there. And I remember saying, we're all going to teach you how to smile. And they're like, what? And like, when's the last time you smiled? When did you practice it? Or we practice everything else. Why don't we practice something that actually does change what happens? And I encourage people to do that, especially in our industry. We need more servers and restaurateurs. I know it's hard. We know it's difficult for people. But I tell you, if we think positive, I promise positive things will happen. I promise that now. I don't promise too often. Yeah. But when we smile, I tell you, it does change things. And we just need to practice it because we're all walking around. And I think the algorithms a lot of the time on social are geared to a negative context because we know negative sells, right? We know it sells.
Well, look at your TV news.
Yeah.
If you were watching, the news station and everything was happy and positive, no one's going to watch it.
Do you remember during COVID, the gentleman, what is his name? I forget. He was from, he did the Positive News channel.
And the one from The Office?
Yes, yeah. Do you remember that?
Yes. So it was called The Good News or The Good something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Remember that?
Yeah, and
How
everything that
about
he did was
good news,
John
right?
John Krasinski, I think
Yeah,
it is his name. Yeah.
yeah. Where'd that go?
Well, and that's unfortunately that's the problem is what happened to it.
Yeah.
But while we were watching it, we enjoyed it. You're sitting there
Oh,
going,
great. Remember, it was positive. It was energy. We needed it through that time.
yeah,
We were doing similar things on our shows. Like our shows are all positive as well. And I remember people coming up to us after and going, you know what? Thanks, Jay, for just staying connected through COVID. We just needed
yeah,
you as our connecting point. And I was like, well, I never thought of that way. We were just literally trying to get more information out to people about the industry and promote it. But yeah, like I always think about where did that go? Where did that good news channel go? It's not on ABC or NBC.
yeah,
Disappeared pretty quick, and
yeah.
that sucks because I think we need more of that, and I think we need that in our industry more and more.
Well, and our industry is that channel.
It is. You're right.
The question is, when the guest walks into that restaurant, is the staff smiling and telling them what a great time they're going to have? Because that's what gets marketed. There's no restaurant that markets, hey, when you come into a restaurant, there's one restaurant, Dick's Last Resort. But outside of that one, you're generally going to have the idea of having a wonderful, happy, joyous time coming into that restaurant. Yeah. So if that's what's getting marketed, then what things are missing that's causing that to not always being executed inside the restaurant?
Do you know what I find, Aaron? Didn't you say that? I wonder how hard it is. And I haven't served in a restaurant in like a zillion years. So I can tell you how long. But I'll put it this way. There was no cell phones in people's hands like there is today. But I wonder how hard it is for a restaurant. And I know that there's a demand for training, and maybe this is where this falls in here. But I wonder how hard it is for servers today to slap that smile on their face and to make it genuine and genuine and be able to understand what they're trying to do. I bet you it's difficult for a lot of people because of what they're going through at home.
Well, I think unfortunately the world is a very tough place for a lot of different reasons. However, you're going to have those few that are generally happy, and we're still wondering why are they happy, that can walk into a restaurant no matter what, and they're going to make that guest put a smile on their face. Great. But getting the majority of the front of house staff to have that, I think really comes from the managers incorporating that same mindset. If they're sitting there going, hey, you're going to have a great day, show me that smile. What's your goals for today? How can we help you accomplish that? Versus just walking into the restaurant going, hey, you're 5 minutes late for your shift. Well, they're 5 minutes late because they were helping the old lady get across the road. But the only thing they were presented with was, hey, you're late for your shift. So, there's a disconnect, I think, a lot of times between the management that if they're happy, the staff will be happy. If they're mad, that restaurant's the gloomiest place ever. Yeah,
and I think it's got to be a really big challenge for operators too, because it's similar to telling people how to smile or training people how to do their P&L or run their restaurants. A lot of people were never trained with those skills either.
No.
And how do you turn around, a team coming in? Like I encourage every restaurateur for their pre-chefs that they're doing is, we talk about this in our side of the business, but like your pre-shifts, your energy, you got to get that energy high. And it doesn't matter. I always say that I don't care if you're a burger shack or a fancy dining place. You got to create that environment. You got to create that a team environment. You have to work like a team. And when I played football and stuff like that, we always had that rally music in the beginning in the change rooms and getting ramped up for the game. You have to do that. And I hope people do that today. I know it's not the world of that necessarily, but I think it's important that we encourage that and we encourage operators to have that. And I tell you, please look at the content that's out there being produced today. there's so much negative. It's hard to find the positive stuff, but there's positive stuff out there that people are talking about. And I think it is like in our show, like when me and Dominic were building this back way back, that was one of the things is we are not talking negative. There's no negative on here as much as he tries to say politics. I don't allow him for the P word. And we get involved. We want that positive. We want to celebrate the people like yourself that are in the industry, that are doing great things with the industry, and the people that we had. I've got a show coming out tomorrow that we interviewed last week. It was Tim was on the show, and he's a restaurateur out in BC in Langley, and just incredible. Like the energy, he started in COVID. Wow, how many businesses I've interviewed. Now here's an interesting thing. How many businesses I've interviewed over 4 years, almost 4.5 years now, that were started during the pandemic. We talk about the negative about the ones that closed, but the ones that also popped up. Now, what did you do through COVID?
Come
on, Aaron.
Yeah, so during COVID, we launched 8 more brands. So here, when the world was like, how are we going to survive? We're sitting there going, hey, let's, we did a brand that was called Theme Park Food.
Theme Park Food?
Theme Park Food, yeah. So,
Theme Park Food, okay.
So essentially, while, your Disney and your Universal Studios and all these amusement parks were all closed, you couldn't go to them. It was, how can we get people a giant turkey leg and a funnel cake and, all the stuff that they shouldn't be eating, but they still want to because, you give them you give somebody a giant turkey leg and take a picture of them, you're always going to get a smile.
I was going to say, never get frowny face on that one, eh?
No. So,
that's so good.
But the guy that you were interviewing, Tim, it's a struggle to do stuff during COVID. And for a lot of people, I mean, you go, how do you pick the worst time possible? But in reality, what time is the best time? You're sitting there going.
You're right, Aaron. Like World War II, Disney came out of World War II, right?
Yeah.
All these things come out of these unfortunate. I think we could learn a lot from that, like all these unfortunate moments. I think we can learn a lot about that. Does it force people to think differently? The Steve Jobs way of saying things. Does it force you to think differently because you're put into the context of change, like you need to change something to survive? Or is it different things that are causing us to think differently in those moments, to change the status quo, to move things forward, to try 8 companies or 8 brands that you've created during COVID? Like, what is that? Where's that come from? Because a lot of people sit back.
Yeah. I think the dangerous part of just sitting back and watching is it's very easy to go in reverse. So all of a sudden, just like, taking a vacation. Yeah, the vacation's nice, but when you go back to work, it's that struggle. Oh, I gotta, it feels like it's twice as hard or 10 times as hard to get back into the motion of things. And I'm not saying COVID was a vacation by any means, but the mindset going, hey, we still got to keep going. We still got to keep doing stuff. And when I say we, from a company standpoint, we looked at COVID as a time to innovate and go, what things could be done better? If people are going to be at their house and they don't want to be dining out or they can't dine out, how do we still bring that magical moment of them being able to enjoy a steak dinner, knowing that they're probably not the best chefs themselves, so they're not going to make it the same way, a trained chef can make that steak. And when they open up a specially created box to hold that steak that has a video of the chef teaching them how he made it, how the temperatures work, why he does certain things, just to give them a little bit of that connection. That was all developed during COVID when the world felt like it was stopped. But those were the things that we were looking at going, how do we bring that connection to someone when they're sitting in their living room or their bedroom for that matter?
How's it feel to be an innovator like yourself? Do you get labeled that?
Sometimes, yes. It depends which people I'm talking to. But how does it feel? It's fun. It's fun to make things. It's fun. I mean, I've always been that Lego model building, tear the phone apart, rebuild it type of kid anyways.
Yeah, were you that guy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Did you always get in trouble like you were breaking things? Don't break it. Was that the words?
Originally, yes. I probably still have stuff that I've broken that I just never put back together. But I enjoy building stuff. I enjoy seeing how things work. Those shows of where they take you behind the scenes and why does this manufacturer, how do they build a kayak? How do they build a, whatever it might be. I enjoy that. So by taking that and applying it to just life in general, you sit there and go, oh, okay, let's see how we can build this. I was talking to a restaurant and their oven broke, and I know virtually nothing about ovens, but I pretended for 5 seconds that I can learn this. Now, granted, that oven is still broken, but the idea that, okay, let's figure out what parts are broken. And we were able to figure out what part, and they had to order and all that. But just the idea of being able to, okay. And then immediately the bulb clicks on and says, how would I make an oven that doesn't have this problem in the future? And so then that starts a whole different gear set that's dangerous.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what's the next step? Where are you going now? What's the next thing you're creating? I know you're creating something.
Yeah. So I mean, I think right now it's a big focus on that technology and how do you implement technology more than even it's being implemented right now. But from a marketing standpoint, using part of that world that I live in, what ways can technology benefit marketing to make it a little more effective and hopefully a lot more effective? And then how do you take that and actually real world cases to where this guest came in, once a month and now they're coming in once every 2 days.
Yeah.
And how are they actually spending money? Because just because they come into the restaurant doesn't mean they're actually spending more. So how do we get them to do that?
Is technology getting into that space of being able to get more out of people?
It is.
And QSR's model's been doing that for years. Are we seeing this more in the mid-casual or casual style?
Well, I think the QSR and the fast food has always played into, so they have drive-throughs. How convenient can we make it for a guest to come to our restaurant, get food and be gone, essentially is their model. Fine dining was never that way. Sit down was, how nice of an experience can we give for them? But at the same time, as people figure out where do we want to spend our money? How do we want to spend our money? So does that fine dining experience need to have a fine dining experience as an option, but also have an option where you can still get that food quality, but maybe it's a little faster? Maybe there's that express lunch version versus just having a lunch version. And those types of things, I think people realize during COVID time is valuable, more valuable than it was before, because we were just very much on a routine. But during COVID, all of a sudden you're at home and you're seeing your family more often, to good and to bad, or you're seeing your pets, whatever it may be, to where,
True.
So now it's from a restaurant standpoint, how do you get that guest to come back in, spend almost what they were going to spend before or more, doing so in a way that costs less to the restaurant and has, I guess, we're doing that action more often. So can you utilize technology for that? Yeah. Can you push out reminders? Can you send something out on a Thursday evening going, hey, did you remember to get lunch for the whole office today? Or tomorrow, or whatever it might be, to where you're reminding them. So there's that push notification that we get irritated by. But if it's done effectively, I've gotten plenty of push notifications from restaurants going, you know what? Yeah, that's right. I am going to go eat there tonight. So they are effective. But then also what rewards on there, what loyalty, what reason, if I'm having to fight for a reward, or if you're promising to do one thing, but then all of a sudden your app doesn't work and I can't actually redeem that reward. I'm also the type that goes, okay, I gave you your one shot. You couldn't make it work. I'll go somewhere else.
Do you think marketing is going to get more like where are we headed in the marketing space if we are going to use more technology? Where we're headed?
I think that hot phrase of AI everything. I don't really buy into that completely. Now, can the computer-driven writing and computer-driven analysis help? Oh, yeah. And it's been helping for decades. We just didn't call it AI. But we've had that IVR style where you call in the phone, press 1, press 2, press 3. Well, AI is, tell me what menu I should get. Oh, you want a burger? Okay. Yeah. It's kind of the same thing. But utilizing that to very quickly go, how often does this guest come back? And based on what they've ordered in the past, if we were to offer them a dessert, what's the likelihood that they're going to buy that dessert? Or if it came as a promo. That's where I think using AI or assisted technology, or programming can play a real big part. Is AI going to write a whole brand new menu? No, AI can't even figure out how to put a picture together without scrumbling up the words and the letters. So I don't have a lot of trust in that quite yet. But I think using computer-assisted marketing services can help quite a bit as far as reducing things that are mundane, that realistically, it's like going back to the example of your artist.
Yeah.
And saying, well, can a computer come up with a picture? Yes, theoretically, a computer can come up with a picture. But if you were to explain the same thing to the artist and the computer, you're going to get two drastically different pictures at the end. And one's probably going to be a lot more creative just because it's the human brain.
Yeah. Do you think they'll ever get past? Do you think they'll even get better? Because they are getting better, but it's still a ways away. Like I don't know if the creative mindset will be maybe in 100 years, 10 years, whatever from now. I just don't know.
A computer is still programming, no matter what. It's zeros and ones at the very basic level. So it's only going to do what it's programmed to be able to do. Now, it can sit there and try and come up with things, but it's still using the database that it's worked off of. Yeah. It's not coming up with some new idea on, well, if I were to take this, this, and this, I can come up with this flavor, and let's try a whole different thing. That's purely artistic human side of things. The same way the computer is really never going to taste something the way a human can taste and see and smell and all the senses that we have. That's the human element of how we create something. So can the computer do it? No. At the moment, it's never going to be able to do that. But it can certainly assist in telling us how many times that specific guest came back to the restaurant, what they ordered, and give us a count. But it's not going to be able to determine if that person actually is going to order something based off what the computer's saying. And I'll give you a really old example of this, but I just happened to watch this movie. I was watching Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Okay.
And there's a scene on there where the guy tries to tell
60s?
The original one. Yes.
Original. Okay.
The real one.
Gene.
Yes. So, but there's a scene on there where he's trying to get the computer to tell him where it's predicting where the box of chocolate's going to be that's going to have the golden ticket. And the response of the computer is, I can't tell you that. I don't have that data. And why would I tell you if I could? But that, and you sit there and go, it's hilarious at the time because this old reel-to-reel tape-driven magnetic, computer.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are having this, idea of, oh, that same computer can now tell me what I want to enjoy tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it can, but it can tell you how often I enjoyed it in the past.
I think I don't know if it's going to replace the creative mindset, and maybe it will one day, but I think there is. I thought when it came out and we were going to have a big challenge in the space of marketing and using AI to replace it. I tell you what's happened. I think everyone jumped on it, and you can read people's articles or you can read people's stuff that you can see it's generated by AI. And I think the algorithms are playing around and making sure, because I'll take a picture of myself at an event and with the shirt that I noticed I had bugs on it still from the outdoor event we were at, is doing better than if you did a fancy one. Like, it's just, I think the algorithms understand that now, but everyone's stuff looks the same. And I don't think we want that. I think we want the differences. I think we want the uniqueness. We want to be different. We want to see different ideas. And I think the marketing space, I think you're okay. I think you're okay. I think AI, I always said this when it came out, you have to lean, learn, and leverage AI. Lean into it, learn about it, and leverage it, but use it as a tool. But I think for restaurants, if it helps you get to what you need to produce or what you need to do, then go for it. But it's not coming in and replacing us yet.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
Maybe
not
in
yet.
100 years. 100 years, you said.
Wow, so. As Diamond Cynic says, for now.
Yeah, we'll come back into this 100 years and be like, huh, now. But then again, we'll just be having the conversation with an AI computer, and you won't even be there. So.
Well, Aaron, as we wrap up, I want to thank you for your time. You're one of the most interesting people I think I've met in a long time. It's incredible, your ideas, the way you think about this. We didn't really get into it. We have to have you back, get into more of your business side of what you do. But where can people learn more about what you do?
So they could go to a couple of different places. You can certainly message me on LinkedIn, and I'll be glad to explain it on a messenger. But if you want to go to some websites, we have the hunger.com website, as well as Stove POS, which is the tech side. And then, of course, you can go to Rapid Inc. and get to the robotic side. I'll just they can message you, and then you can forward them back to me and be like, here's the list of everything. Here we go.
Well, Aaron, thanks again for your time. Honestly, it is absolute. I'm very grateful for meeting you and getting to know you, and just also the opportunity for you to also support our industry and bring that creative and innovative mind to our industry. It's awesome. So thank you so much for your time.
Oh, no, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me on.
There you go, Dominic. You missed a doozy. Hope Toronto's fun. Anyways, all the best. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Aaron. Bye.
Thank you.